Welcome to Pigeon River Farm, doing farming right. I'm Robert Brown, the owner of Pigeon River Farm. Thank you for viewing. Well, good evening. In tonight's episode, we're going to discuss what it's like to farm during the wintertime. Being a livestock farmer, we run a holistic, organic operation, so pasturing, animal welfare, all very critical. So that means our animals are not just jammed into a barn, often very modern barn as you see today, all full of concrete and stainless. No, they live in a very natural world. Cattle are maintaining out in pasture year-round with only limited shelter when absolute necessity. Other than that, they prosper out in the pasture. Goats, on the other hand, are out in the pasture, but they do have barn. They do stay in the barn, so that is they're not as hardy as the cattle by no stretch of imagination. But in the barn, it still gets to the same temperature. And in our poultry, we have multiple high tunnels that we keep our 600 layers in, and them layers prosper very well. Well, you got to remember, they all have to be taken care of. They have to be checked on multiple times a day. I use a lot of different tools. One of the main primary tools that we use here on the farm for livestock is our drone. So wintertime, I send the drone out as much as I do during the summertime, often more with a little more urgency. Check conditions, see if there's a new calf, the feed conditions, overall condition of the cattle are under. But all throughout this, I have to be out there, me and the dogs. And me and the dogs have to be out in this condition. So to get healthy food, you may not give a lot of thought to it, and I accept it. It's part of what we do. Don't feel sorry for me, but it is darn cold out there. I've worked in sub-zero. I think the worst we've had in our region here is working in 26 below zero Fahrenheit. Boy, you know about it. And right now we're still dealing with temperatures that are we're in the middle of the winter, so I know tomorrow morning it's going to be slightly below zero. It's kind of an everyday effect. You know, when a warm day around here is in the mid-20s, and it almost feels like it's tropical. It almost feels tropical. But you work in it for many, many hours. You dress accordingly, you get used to it, you get hardy to it. But you have to work in it. You have to make everything, you have to think, because everything's 10 times harder when it's cold. Something's frozen, it doesn't start. You're always having to deal with that. So there's a lot into producing healthy foods. So when you go have that pasture-raised, naturally raised, natural farming methods, and especially in the cold north, and the south has their own challenges. I'm very aware of their conditions. I got a number of friends that farm in Alabama, Mississippi, and so on, so they got the polar opposite. They actually have to fight the heat. Where here the heat it's an issue, but it's pretty minor. But specifically to the cold. Cold, snow, ice. And more things that we deal with. So you got to plan everything out. I guess you always have to expect the unexpected. Things will break and freeze. Kind of things you need to hook up. Something as simple as getting a drawbar to move, or to get a piece of equipment, it's too slippery. I got a variety of equipment here, from smaller skid steers to the big payloader. Everybody asks me why I have the big payloader. Well, 100 different reasons, but one of them is dealing with the winter time. Big snows, stuck equipment, and so on. There's not much that payloader can't do, and it's an integral part of the farm. Ironically, the big horsepower tractor and the payloader are my favorites, because that's the only two with cabs on it, and they do give you a little bit of heat. But if you've ever run heavy equipment, you know how this works, except for the nice, new, modern, expensive stuff. But traditional stuff, your feet are, no matter how well insulated with premium boots, you're still standing in a big chunk of cold, and odds are it's not going to warm up. The heat's blowing down in your face. You got so you're nice and warm there, and your feet are about ready to freeze, even if they're got Gore-Tex level boots on. So it's one of the things that just goes on. Slips are one of the biggest things I'm always worried about, climbing on and off equipment. And that's something that you have to worry about for yourself. You always worry about for the dogs even, and then of course our livestock. So, winter time. You got to think about winter here when you get that food, that premium food. Some farmer had to deal with these rough conditions to produce that high quality food. So when you're poking your nose out in the morning going, man, I don't know if I want to even run to my car, it's so cold. Somebody else, just like our folks that work for the utility and county workers and so on, your farmers spend most of the day outside. I always joke, I have to spend more time during extreme cold than I actually do during a 70-degree day. Granted, I got to put crops in and so on, but technically speaking, level of urgency, I have to be out there when it's extremely cold more than when it's 70 degrees. So, with that said, just something to ponder. Thought I'd share this with you and have a great evening.